All right, so here we are. It's Thursday of Holy Week. I think we're now into the part where just about everybody knows what happened on the following days. And Thursday, we know a couple of things happened. Actually, I guess about three major things happened. Is number one, Jesus had the Last Supper, his final Passover meal with the disciples. Also, during that time is when Jesus instituted foot washing, and he washed the disciples' feet because he was showing the importance of them serving each other and of ultimately being servants. This was a very big theme with Jesus. He said the Son of Man did not come to serve, or to be served, but rather to serve. And that's our role, is to serve. But I wanted to look at what happens after the betrayal and after the Last Supper, and they head off to the garden. Jesus prays his prayer in John 17 for the entire world, which is really the Lord's Prayer. But before that, he actually prays probably the only recorded prayer I know of that Jesus prayed that God didn't answer him on. And in fact, God's non-answer was a resounding no to Jesus. See, Jesus said, "Lord, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will be done, but yours." And there's no recorded answer to that. But what we see is Jesus continuing on the path God had put him on prior to that prayer. You see, something that tells me is that sometimes when we pray, we get silence from heaven. And what that means is almost nothing. By that, what I mean is, it doesn't mean that you're less of a Christian. If God is silent, if he's not saying anything, it's probably because either you're praying the wrong thing, or because in Jesus's case, he was asking for something that wasn't in the will of God. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to that and think that Jesus prayed outside of the will of God. What I'm saying is Jesus said, if it is possible, let's change the course of this. He as a human did not want to go to the cross, did not want to go through the beatings and the torment and everything, but he was willing to surrender that to God. And he was asking God, if you can change this course of history, please do it. God didn't answer. So Jesus continues with what God told him to do previously. And when we get silence from heaven, sometimes that probably means the same thing. We should just keep doing with what God has already told us. It doesn't mean that we're less of a Christian if we're not hearing God every time we pray. It doesn't mean that God is not present, that God has abandoned us or has, just decided he doesn't want to talk to us anymore. That's not the case. That certainly no one would say that that'd be the case with Jesus. And yet sometimes when that happens to us and we experience the same thing Jesus experienced, that's how we interpret it. So watch how we interpret those things. Let's remember the same things that we go through, Jesus also went through. Sometimes when we say, Jesus suffered everything and was tempted in all ways, so we don't think about stuff like that. That, he actually did pray a prayer that God was silent on. And it happens to us. And it's okay. And it doesn't mean God's abandoned us. It doesn't mean we're less of a Christian. It doesn't mean we're less loved. It just simply means to keep doing what God has already called us and told us to do. So that's everything I want to say about Thursday. I think a lot of people will have Maundy Thursday services, and also a lot of us already know what's going on. But I'm always excited about these. I hope you'll join me tomorrow. Tomorrow's Good Friday, and we'll look at the crucifixion.